You being silly. So we're live.
That's what I do.
We're, we're gonna you're gonna be having me laughing the whole time, right? We're gonna wait for we're gonna wait for some friends. Now you just being silly.
That was my freeze pose. Like,
We're gonna wait for some friends to come on while we just converse. So Thomas, aka, and then you've got your posture dude, your ex thing. So you're gonna every time somebody greets you now, you're gonna have that going on. So when I do the introduction, people will know. Yeah, we don't have any friends on so far, which is fine. Okay, there's people. There's Nikki and there's Wendy. Nikki and Wendy, hello. Tomorrow I'm going to be on Nikki's Instagram live. Yes. Hey, friends, welcome to the chat. I have two of Nikki's questions for today, so that's going to be interesting. And what's going on, ladies? You came to see what's going on with me and Thomas tonight. We're doing our Tucker Talks. So far as 5 people in the chat. Hello, friends. How's everyone doing? Hey, Victoria. Welcome to A Reseller's Passion YouTube channel. And this is Tucker Talks. If you didn't know it, our last name is Tucker. I am Leslie, and this young man is my husband.
Thomas. And I am Thomas, also known as Pasha Dude X.
This is what I live with. This is what I live with. So tonight we're just gonna be talking about some random things in reference to reselling. I'm trying not to stay scripted. We're just trying to feel our way and see what people are interested in. And I put a question out to the Instagram community and asked if they had any questions. I have a few questions from a few friends, but I'm going to be asking Thomas some questions and probably piggybacking on some of his answers. I really like Thomas's work ethic. You know, if you've been following me for a while, whether it be on Instagram or listening to the podcast or either being in my Zoom chat or my reseller group, you know that I talk about Thomas often. He inspires me. You know, of course, he says I inspire him. That's what relationships are based on. And
yes, honey, you are my muse.
I can't even talk. So I wanted to ask him some questions. So I got started reselling 4 years ago as a Poshmark seller. Thomas was already selling on Amazon books and eBay. And to me, it looked a little bit kind of like frightening, but that's, sometimes we back away from things that we're not familiar with. And I wanted to do something with him, but I didn't want to get like deep into eBay like he was. But as with anything, Thomas goes in full force and I kind of take my time going into it. So what I want to ask him a couple questions about basically how he runs his business. So when you were selling on eBay, right? What was aside from making money, because that's the bottom line. There's no like other way to go around it. In our family, it's about making money. If it's not bringing any income, we're really trying not to like mess around with it, right? So why did you pick eBay as a place to sell? Like before, you used to do a lot of vending. Before I met you, right? You were selling lotions and things like that. Why did you decide to move on to an online platform and start selling?
I think I saw it as the writing on the wall. I saw it as something that because this was many years ago. I guess the 90s. Mm-hmm. I saw it as the writing on the wall. I actually, I'm not really a mall shopper, and I know people that go to the mall, they do it more so for entertainment than the shop. And at the time, I was in my first marriage and I had small children, and I wanted to be around the house a little bit more. So, combine those two things. But I just saw a vision that, this internet thing is going to take off. This internet thing, now the whole world runs on the internet. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So what were some of the earlier things were you selling when you first started? Did you jump right into clothes or were you doing something different?
Oh, no, I was selling, believe it or not, I was selling music CDs. Then I kind of morphed into, strange change. I'm often car parts. I would buy a car, put it in my driveway, and basically dismantle the car, with a cover over it until it was down to just the wheels and tires. And I'd sell the doors, I'd sell the motor, I'd sell the fenders, I'd sell the interior parts, and people would come and disassemble the car, and I would help out. I really didn't help out that much, but I went from cars, and that's pretty much it. It was CDs, car parts. Occasionally I'd run into some stereo speakers or something like that. So that was pretty much it back then. And then I stopped doing online things. I got more into the flea markets and some other things I was doing. So that's that story.
When I met you, you were selling books on Amazon. What was the potential that you saw in selling books at that time?
Well, when I first started, I had recently moved to Delaware, and I found I didn't know there was such thing as an outlet store. I knew about Salvation Army and Goodwill retail store, but there's an outlet store that opened up, and someone says, well, they sell stuff by the pound. I said, by the pound? And back then it was like, maybe 79 cents a pound. So I rolled into the outlet store one day, and there were just carts and carts of books, college textbooks, kind of pricey books, and they were for sale like 50 cents each. So I started with the books, and I was really successful with the Amazon book selling because I had such a supply of them. I'd come home with 50 to 100 books at a time. I think the most I had listed was like 600 or 700 books. But what started happening is, just like everything else, competition started rolling in, and then they started lowering their prices, and then the books that you had maybe 6 months ago that were worth, I don't know, say $100 would be worth $10. It just got to the point where I just had so many books and they weren't selling because there was so much competition, and then it got to the point where some books were like $1, and you didn't make any money because Amazon had to get their cut. So it just got to the point where it was just ridiculous. So eventually I stopped with the books, and from there I started doing the clothes. I'm sorry I keep looking away, but I'm trying to text people to tell them that we're on. So
so when I met Thomas, well, first I'm gonna say hi to everyone. Hello, I see New England Betty Boop, who was Lizette. There's Victoria. Hey, Daniela, tell everybody, I know you're coming on Thursday, right? You didn't forget. Send me a picture. Nikki, Wendy. So when I met Thomas, he was a bachelor and he lived in an apartment, but you go in and he had a room and it was books like everywhere. So I didn't know anything about selling books, and we happened to live, of course, in a college town. We live right around the corner from the University of Delaware. So of course those books were coming in, and I just thought, like, what did I walk into? This guy with all these books, but it seemed to be successful. But then as fast as it was successful, right, then they stopped selling because they weren't worth anything. And even now, it's still kind of like some people will sell them. Some people will get a decent book and they can scan it and they think they'll get some money. But books really aren't the way to go always. If anybody has any questions, leave them there. Anything you want to ask Thomas, a lot about me, but if it's anything that you want to ask him, like about his shoe hustle, we're going to get into his shipping in a minute and his photographing, and then I'll probably add on, because we're totally different in our business. That's one of the questions that people are always interested in knowing. Okay, this is Nikki. What do you do when there's so much competition out there with selling similar items?
Well, that kind of goes into my philosophy of sales, and I always say this to you: something's only worth what people are willing to pay. And being that I can get a lot of the shoes and the other items I get so cheaply, I can stay competitive with just about anybody, because I'm only looking to make about 4 to 5 times whatever I paid for it across the board. So, for example, that load of shoes that you saw on the couch the other day, I paid about $6 a pair across the board. So 6 times 6 is 36. Mm-hmm. So I'll ask maybe for $40 or something like that, and hoping to get $35 to $40. So if I get $25, I'm still ahead of the game.
Yeah.
So to me, competition really is negligible, because everybody is trying to get top dollar.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and I'm not.
And one thing I will say, one of the main places that Thomas sources, and I right along with him, is the outlet. Before we knew it was the bins, we were like he mentioned earlier, he was going to the outlet even before he knew me. And then a new one opened up. That's been 8 years now, about 8.5 years ago. And that's the one that's closer to our home that we go to. I do go to the retail stores every now and then, but Thomas is really not a retail store shopper. He's made different connections, and that's the great thing about going to the bins, where you get to know people and they sell something different than you, and then you can collaborate. So he has different people, and that has allowed us to source in different ways than normal people would source. And so he said this a few minutes ago, how he comes home with a bunch of shoes, and then he'll kindly let me have some, which has been awesome during this quarantine time, to not have to go out into the world to source. Plus, he has better shoes to choose from, right? So what kind of
Yeah.
shoes do you specifically sell, Thomas? What do you focus on?
Right now, it's athletic shoes, because eventually the country's going to be released from quarantine. People are going to want to get out, jog, walk. Um, I tend to focus on whatever's available during whatever's needed during that season. Because winter, I sell. Going into winter, I start to sell the winter boots. Right now, I'm kind of concentrating on the sneakers. Uh, um, there's a person that asked me what's my best-selling shoe.
That's Wendy.
Yeah, well, Wendy, Nikes,
Yeah.
Nikes across the board. Because there's so many different types of Nikes, different for different sports. But Nikes, when I put some Nikes on, they eventually sell. As far as actually shoes are concerned, the Bostonian shoe line tends to sell well for me because they're usually a pretty well made shoe. But I would say that's pretty much the best, Nikes and Bostonians.
And in the past, Thomas, he's really been focusing more on men's shoes. He's kind of getting introduced to the women's shoes. So that's in the past, it wouldn't be a big deal for us. But now that he has like different connections and he goes out for his source and he comes back with his shoes, he knows that I'm looking for women's shoes. So he'll say, take what you want. And to not be greedy, I take a few shoes. I don't really mess around with men's shoes unless I know specifically they're going to sell. And they usually do. Like a couple months ago, he came home with shell top Adidas, and Converse All Stars always sell for me. Vans sell for me. And these are specifically men. Women I will sell a lot of All Stars and things like that, but I sell a lot of Sanuks. I sell a lot of Rocket Dogs. It's very surprising to me. And I started finding all this stuff at the outlet, at the bins. And I kept finding them and they kept selling for me. So dress shoes don't sell as much for me, but like sneakers, tennis shoes, wherever, running shoes, track shoes, wherever you're part of the United States you're from, they sell for me. But a point that Thomas made, he sells Nikes, but he also was really focusing on just men's shoes. And so he takes the same philosophy, right, Thomas, that he was using on eBay. He does it on Mercari, and he also does it on Poshmark. So tell everybody, you were talking about you want to try to make a certain amount of money back. Like, how do you figure out doing that? If you're going to the outlet or if you're going to the shoe guy, how do you make that determination? Because there are so many, and the reason I asked you that question, we've had this conversation on many occasions. There are so many people who are looking to make so much money. And that's their bottom line. It's nothing wrong with that. Everybody's business structure is different. But I think that sometimes take a little bit longer. And if you're working a job outside the home, you probably have time to do that. But as a full-time seller, what do you think someone should be doing in terms of what they want to make? So if you go out, you buy, 50 pairs of shoes, you base it upon a certain number, right?
Yeah. I basically just do 4 to 5 times what I paid for it. I don't know where I came up with that arbitrary figure. I think it's one of the guys online that I was looking at, maybe the Tino, the Soul Advisor. I forget who it was, but that pretty much will cover me if I have to ship them out, because I find that most shoes are not that heavy, and I can ship them, flat rate. USPS flat rate, but it's just enough I came up with. I don't know where I got the idea that's what I should be doing it, but it's 4 to 5 times whatever I paid for it, and that's my number. Now sometimes I'll get something from my shoe guy, like a brand new pair of I think I mentioned this last week, Lucchese boots.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think I sold those for like $140, and I still paid the same. I think I paid $10 for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so sometimes I get something that's just so nice and incredible. That I jack the price up, and also it's going to depend on the condition. Obviously, if I get a new a pair that looks new or actually are new, I'm going to go way above that 4 to 5 times more, and I usually get my money.
Yeah.
Because sometimes shoes come in, they're absolutely new, but they may have a little scrape on them. I'm like, I'm just going to say they're new,
Yeah.
and just go out there and sell them. Somebody asked me about scrap metal.
Yeah,
Old school Victoria.
She probably she follows you. That means she follows you.
Oh, okay. When I do clean out, there's usually scrap metal involved. There'll be bicycles, there'll be refrigerators. That's how I get it. But it's just a small sideline. It's not something that you can make into a full-time business unless you're really ready to do it. And I'm not really full-time reselling yet. I actually have my hands in too many things right now, and eventually something's going to give and I will become full-time, but I consider myself a part-time reseller, not a full-time. So
yeah, there are many people who think like that, but also get more specifically into the scrap metal. Like, it's really not worth what people think it is, because he does this all the time. You're not really making what you think you could.
Well, like I said, it's still money, and I don't believe in throwing away money. So what I do is this is totally off the subject, but what I do is I separate the scrap metal by types of scrap. Sometimes there's aluminum, there's copper, there's brass, and then there's regular metal. Obviously, the aluminum, copper, brass is more. So I separate that in little buckets, and then when I do go, which on average about once a month, I may get $50 or $50, and I try not to put a lot of effort into it, but it's just basically a little side money, a little gas money. So it's not something that I would recommend to anybody do. I just have done it all the time. So hey.
Okay, I think this question's for me. So, stable movement. You mentioned also about getting into motivational speaking. Have you started doing that with reselling? Literally, my whole platform for reselling is motivational speaking. It's motivational, it's inspirational. I have a reseller chat where the ladies and I talk almost on a daily basis, depending on how often I jump in and jump out. And I also hold Zoom chats. I have another one coming up on May 26th at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I basically go in and I talk. I had a couple events that I was signed up for, but they got canceled. So in addition to reselling, yes, I consider myself to be a motivational speaker. That's actually how I got on this road to motivational speaking, because my community was growing, and that meant that people wanted to hear what I had to say. So my daily goal every single day is to motivate and inspire the community, to show them that they can achieve anything that they set their mind to. That when the people at home are telling them that they can't do it, I'm here to tell them that I validate them 100%, and they can do whatever they set their mind to. And that is nothing wrong with your family. So I try not to get into marital disputes, because people do ask me several times a week, how can they get their spouse involved, especially after they see Thomas and I talking and things like that. And I just tell them, if you search for the community, you'll find someone like-minded, and you'll find a group of people who will be with you in terms of that. But also, if you have a spouse or a family member or anyone who's supporting you in anything, that's your support. They don't have to be doing what you're doing, because I'll actually go into that question. What was it? Okay. So Glow Girl Glow, she's here. She's Nikki, right? And she said, will we ever merge our businesses together? So Thomas, you can answer. I already have an answer.
No, I don't think so, because I would say it's more likely that if we were to merge anything, we would merge something like what we're doing now. But the selling aspect, I don't think so, because I have my way of doing things. She has hers, and we sell different types of things, and plus it would be a logistical nightmare, because I got the basement, she's got upstairs, I got stuff in here. I don't think so.
Yeah, so he actually answered. We didn't even rehearse this or talk about this ahead of time. And the answer would be no. And he said exactly what I was going to say because I wrote down like my little answer. We would continue to do what we're doing right now, stay like on the video path. Maybe he'll start joining me in some Zoom chats and things like that because I think we both have things to share with the community as a whole. But I also would love to see like more men seeing that they can do this, and even if they don't want to resell, but like supporting their wives. And so the way that I look at Thomas and I is that you don't you don't have to do everything together. Like I just said, that has nothing to do with your marital partnership. So there are things like we, just like anybody else, we have different disagreements and things like that, but we work, our hustle is so pure that no matter what, like he knows I have his back, he has my back. And even if we don't merge our businesses, we're always there to support each other. So I can see us doing this kind of stuff. And we do support each other. Before we were quarantined and the pandemic and everything, we were literally traveling. We were doing Posh and Sips a couple times a month. We were ready to, put our money aside to go to Posh Fest. So those are the things that we do equally in terms of our business. And because it's just like you going to a different job than your spouse. You're both working, but he could be in a banker and you could be a doctor or a nurse. So we are, we work together, but just not in our businesses. But the cool thing about it, if something happened to either one of us, we could run the other person's businesses because we're familiar with the platforms and I know where his stuff is. Okay, so Wendy's asking another question about shoes.
I don't have a lot of experience in track shoes. And I don't run into them that often. I actually run into more football shoes. Mm-hmm. And I had a load of football shoes, and I sold them at a wholesale deal. I just got rid of them because they were all like, I don't know if they belong to the same person, but they were all like huge sizes. I guess because football players are much bigger humans than everybody else. But they were like 14, 15. I think they were 19. And I don't know. I can't remember who bought them, but somebody just bought them, and I just sold them as a package deal. I don't have a lot of experience in track shoes, though, cleats.
So I will say that I personally have never gone out like looking for track shoes. Our children used to run track. Like when my son ran, when he was finished with his track shoes and his cleats, the little screw on, like, the spikes, I listed them and sold them right away. And then our youngest daughter as well, when she decided she didn't want to run track anymore, as soon as she decided she wouldn't run, I took those and they sold like within 3 days. And then also we had children that play soccer. Craig's shoes I couldn't sell because they were totally messed up. But our daughter Stephanie, when she finished, I was able to sell her track cleats right away. So it doesn't hurt to try. The best platforms to sell those on though are like Mercari or eBay. I was selling on eBay at the time when I sold all those track shoes, and literally they sold fast. And I wasn't trying to get like a lot of money. I just wanted to get something because like why give them away if they still had life? And it also, you don't have to sell the best pair of shoes. Just put a good description. Like Stephanie's shoes, the shoe as a whole was really good. And it was just a little bit scuffed on the toes of each shoe. And I tried to like fix it a little bit, but I just said this would be a great practice cleat instead of like, a game cleat. And that way during practices, the child could, or the person could wear those. So it just depends on what your wording is. Okay, yes, give me a thumbs up. Thumbs up, everyone. So thank you, Nikki. For anybody who wants to know, Glow Girl Glow, she's Nikki, and on tomorrow night she'll be interviewing me live on her Instagram. So stop by and check us out. And Wendy's asking a lot of questions. I love it. Here we go.
Okay. As far as the car parts are concerned, if you go on eBay and you look at, you just put in car parts and you put in the make and model of your car, every little piece on the car, every knob, every screw, every item on the car, there's somebody selling it because, a lot of people, especially these days, are keeping their cars and they need parts. And, you have a choice between going to the dealer, which is crazy expensive, or you can buy them, you can buy actual parts from the car instead of parts that are remade in Germany and stuff like that. And there's also a lot of junkyards that do that as well. But every part on the car, everything. I mean, there's really nothing on the car that you can't find. Every emblem, every medallion, every wheel, every tire, every screw, everything, as long as it's in good shape, you can sell it. Radios, parts on your dash. So it's an eBay thing. So just if it's something that interests you, which it doesn't interest me anymore. Well, if I had the big garage I want to get, I might think about it. But I'd be more brand specific. Like I would only sell Toyota Camry parts if I could find one cheap, you know. And you can buy a wrecked car, you know, all day long. You can find them, you know, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, you know, cars that are wrecked, and you will see a lot of cars that are for sale for parts. So, you know, if it's something you want to get into, you can do it.
That's for you. He said no. There you go.
You'd have to have space for the cars. You'd have to have some place to keep them. I would say indoors or a lot where they will allow you to keep cars and all that stuff. No, I don't think that'd be something I want to do.
So one thing that Thomas, he did touch on that, you know, everyone's looking for parts. So especially like classic cars. So if you're ever in like the Goodwill or something and you see something like how he was saying, you notice he mentioned everything. Like if there's a handle, that means there's somebody out there who's looking for that handle. There are people who restore cars. So I found, and I'm pretty sure everyone here could agree that you may have found this thing in the retail store or even in the bins that you just like, this looks really interesting. And you started looking it up and you may not have paid attention to it, but Thomas really just gave you an idea. It could be a car radio and you just thought, yeah, I don't know anything about radios, but that's when you pick it up. You never know what's going to sell. Like I've sold so many things in the last couple of weeks on Mercari, just kind of walking through the house and saying, you know what, it's been sitting there, and or Thomas will give me some things and it will sell. So if you do some research, it'll definitely sell for you. So Thomas, like I tease Thomas all the time, and I just let him know that it's 16 photos on Poshmark. So if no one knows that yet, you're allowed to take 16 photos and put them on Poshmark. Why? I don't know why they did that. Is one of the most important things. We need some other stuff like reduced shipping. Cough, cough. But tell everybody, like, how do you take your photos and list onto the Poshmark app, sweetie?
Real quick though, this person asked about a drop shipping business. I don't even know how you would set that up. So you know, you'd have to hook up with a junkyard and they would ship it for you, but they have their own thing. So they do their own shipping, their own, you know, disassembling, dismantling. Not something I would consider. But as far as shipping is concerned, well, taking my pictures, hey, I can show you. I'm going to spin this thing around.
I tease them all the time.
Can you see that? This is where I take my pictures. This is a set of New Balance running shoes. I don't know how well you can see it, but
see it very well.
This is where I take my pictures. You can see this is the lighting. I have 3 lights up there. I have a white background and a white towel set down, and that's basically it.
And that's for shoes.
Yeah, shoes, sneakers, etc. You know. Now for as far as shipping is concerned, I basically pretty much use the USPS shoebox that you can get for free, USPS online. Most every shoe I've found I can fit in there. Now that doesn't hold true for boots, and there's a USPS large shipping box, or you can use your flat rates. But you know, that's pretty much how I get everything shipped out. I'm not about fanciness. I'm about efficiency. Get it out the door as quickly as I can. So I do put them in. I may use the USPS Tyvek bags for sneakers and shoes. Just put them in the bag, seal it, put the bag in the box. I don't want your shoes to do a lot of moving around. Yeah.
So this right here, if people don't know what that is, these free. Yeah. It's mailing envelope on there.
Now, if it's, I'll actually ship something in that by itself. If it's something that won't get damaged through shipping, but I'm really about getting it out as quick as I can. I don't do fancy cards. I don't do fancy anything. You know, I'm a guy. I think most of my customers are guys.
Here's your shoe box.
Yeah. Now, when you show them, you're supposed to smile. Like this. There you go.
I'm Vanna White. I'm sitting next to my shipping station. That's why. So people are like, how are you pulling that stuff out of there? This was not rehearsed. My shipping is right on my right side. That's why.
Yeah.
But
so,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm just about getting it out as quickly as possible. Yeah. And over the years I've been reselling, I think I've had, oh my God, 2 of all the thousands of sales I made, maybe 2 people have complained about my shipping. It was crappy, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, most of my other ratings are 5 stars. So what does that tell you? Just get it out as quickly as possible. Because I guess the people that are into, well, like I said, there's form and function. I'm a functional person. My function is to get it sold, get it out as quick as possible. Some people want it to look nice,
that
be pretty
would be
and nice.
Lizette. She's probably going to chime in a minute. Lizette really gets she's very pretty. She's into pretty.
Yeah, if you have time for that and it's something that you're into, I don't talk bad about anybody, what they do. It's just not for me. Like the lady said, I ain't got time for that.
She's sending you a nice, she do. Yes.
I ain't got time for that. So
no, I'm the same way. Look, my stuff goes into these plastic bags. I have different sizes. Thankfully, we have a party store up the street, and I can get 100 of these bags. The small ones for like $3. The most we pay, or like $11. That's for big. He gets like big giant ones because in the wintertime he goes into coats and things. But it's actually cheaper for us to get these little plastic bags than it is to get the poly clear bags online. And this is what I use. And I use as much free shipping as I can. But I had a handmade business before, so I have a lot of poly mailers. The year of the Women's March, I sell like I can't remember, $25,000 worth of pink cat hats. So I bought all these supplies. So I'm still going through that. But I'm really just like Thomas said, I don't use a lot of fancy stuff. I was creating thank you cards, but when I had my 4th Posh and Sip, they sent me all this Posh swag. So I have over 1,000 postcards and I have stickers. And so I don't need to buy anything. And I just write a private note on everyone and stick it in there. I did get some cards made for Thomas, and he probably has only used maybe 10 of them, if that. But I do tease Thomas. Like, Thomas, how do you take your Poshmark photos? Like, let me preface by saying this. Take a step back for a second. Another reason that Thomas and I couldn't work together, aside from me being a little bossy, you guys probably don't think I'm bossy. If you do, that's just leadership, okay? But like, I tease him because I'll say, well, just take the picture and leave it in your photos. But he actually takes pictures from the app. He does old school, and there's probably a lot of people who do that. But I like to, play around with my lighting and all that. So he's no nonsense. So tell everybody, like, how you take your photos.
Like you said, with the camera.
Yeah.
I mean, the camera on the phone.
Yeah,
in the app.
The app, yeah.
But to me, it's about efficiency, because the way you do it is you take the pictures and you got to alter the pictures. You
don't really have to. It's just actually, like, now, say for instance, like last night I happened to be listening on a computer and I was like, oh, now there's 16 slots. So I went right into my group chat with my ladies and I was like, hey, and Bill too, and was like, hey, we can do 16 photos. And all of a sudden everybody started kind of looking. Lizette was like, all you had to do was refresh your app and bam, 16 photos. So this morning, purposely, when I went to take the 8 photos while my coffee was brewing, I took enough photos to go into the 16 slot. So there in my camera roll, because we have our white background, I don't have to adjust if I don't want to. So then what happens is when you go into Poshmark, all you have to do is click 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the 16, and they go right in there for you instead of like taking the picture, listing it. So Thomas, he actually takes his picture from the app and then he lists one by one. So every picture, every item that he takes, he'll sit down and list that. Then he'll get up and take another picture, sit down and list that. Whereas the way that I do it, I can list 20 in 20 minutes instead of, taking like an hour or whatever back and forth. So I tease him a lot about that, but that's just the way that he does it. It's efficient for him.
Well, it's not exactly one picture, because, when you're in the app, you can take up to, I think, well, you said 16. Mm-hmm. So I take all of my pictures and then I put it in. Mm-hmm. And I'm able to do it so fast because I've done it so many times. I'm able to do it. I can get something listed in maybe 2 to 3 minutes. So I'm cool. What is a foo-foo box? What is she talking about?
She's giving you an because you don't do your pretty packaging. She's very passionate about her packaging. So just to let you know, New England Betty Boop is Lizette. She and her husband Andrew will be on with us on the 26th. And for all of you in the chat, I said this last night, Lizette will be 50 on May 26th, y'all. So she's going to be on the show. It's going to be husband and wife. And Lizette and her husband are originally from New Yorkers. Thomas grew up close to New York, and he gets along with New Yorkers. And yes, Lizette, we're both bossy because I'm Philly. You New York. Not too far, you know. But I'm a gentle persuader. I'm not bossy. I'm a gentle persuader. There you go. So let's so I have a couple questions here. Okay. Someone already asked this, so you already said it, but I'm going to ask it and say the person's name. So how do you photograph your items? Cell phone or camera? Any tips you can provide? And this is from eCreations, and her name is Evelyn, and this is from an IG question that I took earlier. So how do you photograph your items? Phone or camera? And do you have any tips? And then I'll answer after.
I've used both. I actually prefer camera, but I don't know why. I sold the camera. That's why I needed the money. I sold my camera.
No, wait a minute. He will sell anything and then come back and go, wait, I sold the laptop. I have to get a new laptop.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sweetie.
Yeah, this one we're on is going to have to be a keeper for a while. But I since we both went over the iPhone, I find that the camera is a lot better. But you know, I just make sure that everything is squared, that the background is basically everything is square, tight, white background, and that's it. You know, make sure that, you know, there's no distractions, there's no weirdness in the picture, my finger's not in it, or you know, if you could see where I'm at now, if you saw the whole background right behind my picture area is the screen I use for my computer, and I got another computer over there, and I got books over there. I got all kinds of stuff around here. But just make sure it's square, tight, and the pictures are good, bright, and you want to make sure that if there are any flaws, that you tell them and show them the flaws so that they can't come back and say, well, you didn't tell me about this, that. That's why I never have, you know, I won't say never, I hardly ever get any returns, because I tell you people, like I just listed a pair of Danskos. The left heel has slight wear. Tell them and show them. But that's it. It's really not that complicated. And plus, we have the umbrella style lighting in the back room. There's a white wall, so that's for my pants, my jackets, my coats, my jerseys, all that other stuff. So I do shoes here because it's comfortable, because I can actually look up and watch TV while I'm doing it, and that's really it. It's really not that complicated.
And then in the summertime, like before I bought the lighting, Thomas actually takes a lot of photos outside because our deck puts a lot of light back there. So it took him a little bit of time, but on a rainy day, he was like, oh yeah, these lights come in handy. But he does really like the natural light.
Yeah, I like outside light. And what I do is I've got a big white, it's not a sheet, it's a bedspread. It's a pure white bedspread, and I clip it up above the door, and then I put my hanger down there, and it hangs down. It's, to me, outdoor lighting is the perfect light. Yeah. But also it depends on how bright it is. Sometimes it'll overexpose, and you know, it's kind of crazy. Actually, a slightly overcast day actually works better than a bright sunny day outside for me. So
yeah, that's
very uncomplicated.
Yeah, that's true, because that's the same thing with even with the lighting kit. If you're too close, it'll be exposed. You have to, you know, position in such a way, and that's why people do like ring lights. We haven't gotten to there yet. We're not getting anything new until we move. If I decide I want to get a ring light, but with me, I do take pictures with my phone. I will say, Thomas doesn't like the iPhones. I like my 8 Plus better, but the 11 really does take great photos. I take all my YouTube videos with it, and it's the best way for me. My daughter gave me a camera, and I'm like, yeah, I don't feel like dealing with that. So I do use PicTap Go, but I don't have to fix every photo. If I see something, because our wall, we live in a rental and we're not painting that wall. So it is a little scuffed, but it is a white wall. And again, it's like each person is different. Like Thomas, as long as he can show what's in his photo, he's good. Me, yes, I do want to pretty it up and make sure it's good. And then also what the PicTap Go does for the people who use Snapseed or anything like that, you can go back and then I circle any holes, or I put like an arrow or something so people can see where the challenge is, so that there are no issues and there are no returns there. So it says, okay, this is a question from Lizette. She's New England Betty Boop. She's also my moderator. She keeps like people away who are like want to say bad stuff about us or come in and try to spam. You can set moderators for people who don't know that. And she says, do you ever list or take pictures for one another's closets?
Nope.
Nope. We don't touch either. We literally do nothing for each other. Seriously, like we would go like sourcing together, but then Thomas, right now we only have one vehicle and we're not really going anywhere. He does more running around. He's our kind of like designated person. I drop our daughter off at work and maybe do an errand or go to Wawa or something, but I'm back home. He runs around more because he has an outside business. But for the most part, we literally don't touch each other. Seriously. Like I was just downstairs watching him. He has a chair, a sofa behind him, a couch, whatever you call it. And I was watching him and talking to him, taking pictures and stuff. And he'll come in my office sometimes, but never the two meet. Where he is right now, he's in his office space. And where I'm at now, I'm in my office space. We don't store anything together. His stuff is totally separate from mine. So in no way do we touch each other's stuff. No photos, no shipping for each other. He takes our packages to the post office. That's it, literally. And that is how we function. And so for a lot of people that works for them because you do have the couples that work like that, but we don't. And where we're so different, we're alike in a lot of ways, but we're more different with our businesses. It says, so Wendy said, I'm too much of a control freak perfectionist. I have to edit the pics. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. That's your business. Stark Raven, wow, my white wall is more the color of buttermilk, but it works. That's fine. Some people, they use gray, but then also people have like those backgrounds, which are like the brick and it looks like flooring, all kinds of, so whatever works for you. It doesn't have to be white, but from what I understand, Google search picks up. You're more searchable if you have a white background. Now, I've been doing SEO for a long time. If you don't know what that is, that's search engine optimization. Your keywords. Thomas is really good with keywords. I was always impressed on eBay, his use of keywords to use all the spaces. Poshmark, we don't have the luxury to use that much, and Mercari's even shorter because I copy and paste that description and it never fits in there. So as long as your keywords are good and you have a description, you should be able. It doesn't really matter.
Well, I've never done keyword search optimization. I just think logical. The brand, the color, the type. The size, across the board, brand, color, type, size, and if I can, I'll put the material. Like it'll be say Bostonian, brown leather, Oxford shoes, size, so on and so. So I just think logical flow.
Yeah.
So get as much in as you can. So.
Well, what the thing is, what he just said, he actually, if he's thinking logical in the way he just described it, that's exactly what people are doing. So when they go to Google and they're putting something in, that's what they're looking for. So, hey, Calvin. Calvin is Thomas's friend. They grew up together. That's like Thomas has like 5 good friends, lifetime.
Yeah.
They're lifers. We moved around so much that I was never able to make friends. And so Calvin is one of Thomas's friends, and they've known each other for a long time.
Nugget.
I wasn't even born when they met each other. So there you go. Yes, I love to just put that in there sometimes. So does anybody else have any questions for Thomas? You guys know me a little bit better, so of course I'm probably boring by now, right? So you were saying earlier how you ship your items. How do you ship non-shoe items?
I try to because the shippers go by size as well as weight. So the weight's going to be what it is, but if you can get your item in as small box as possible. So I use the method I call the I guess you call it shrink wrap method, but I'll get something and fold it up nicely, put it in a plastic bag, squeeze all the air out, or sometimes I'll take the vacuum cleaner, squeeze all the air out, and it will compress down to the point that I can get, something that this thick into something that thick, because you get all the air out, and I'll neatly get it into a box and zip it up, and that's it. Okay. So I guess you call it vacuum sealing it. Yeah, is what I try to do. So that's what I do.
I'm joking with you, but if you were friends with Thomas since childhood, you're still older than me. I will tell you that. Right? I'm gonna leave Calvin alone. Look at that.
Yes, you are, Calvin. Yes, you are.
You said yes, you are. There's nothing wrong with that.
Listen,
You're still here. That's what
that's
matters
right.
the most.
That's right. We're both still here.
What do you always say? Like if you getting old means you've lived or something, what do you say to me?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
That means you're still alive, because a lot of people don't make it out of their youth. You know.
Yeah.
People. I mean, I saw on the highway today these three, and I looked at them as they were going by. They were kids. They had to be doing 100 miles an hour, and they're cutting through traffic. So and so, so and so. In order to get old, you got to keep living. So, you know.
Yeah, that's a really good question. But like, Calvin, are you selling stuff? Because it depends on what you're shipping, right? Like the smaller stuff, United States Post Office, and then for Poshmark, they already have like their shipping is like a set cost, so you can use like almost any priority packaging. So that is always going to be the United States Post Office. So Thomas is.
Yeah, but see, larger items, I'm going to go with FedEx.
Yeah.
They have a better. Their policy, if something is damaged, is a little bit more lenient, and you have a better chance of getting your money back. But for larger items, I'm going to go with FedEx, because you can, I've sold a fair share of speakers, for example, and sometimes they're pretty heavy, right? I find it across the board for larger, heavier items, and they're going a little farther. Say something's going out to California, FedEx works better.
Mm-hmm.
So I save my larger items for FedEx or UPS, but I tend to like FedEx better, because I've had a couple of losses because I didn't know how to pack a set of speakers, and they got damaged, and they actually refunded me. So I got better at doing it, at padding it and bubble wrapping it and everything, making sure there's no space. But I find FedEx works better for me.
Do the herbs. Okay. Awesome. Okay. So this is Nikki. Great question, Nikki. Thomas will tell you what he's looking for. When you guys move, are you looking at homes that have separate offices for your businesses? Yes, we each have our own solution. So what are you looking for in a new home, sweetie, to have?
I need at least a 2-car garage. Basically it, 2-car garage. I figured we're going to be moving toward the south. The climate will be a little bit better, and I'm fine having my office in the garage as well. But I want a large 2-car garage. And I don't want to do big houses. I've done that before. It's a nightmare to maintain a big house. I don't care what nobody say. So 2-car garage in a nice area.
So
flat property.
Yeah. So my goal is to actually have a separate building, and you can always get like the big sheds or whatever, because moving from here, Thomas, I have his 2-car garage. I'd rather have it's not going to be like a she shed. It's going to be a little bit bigger. It depends on how our garage is structured. If it's big enough where we can actually put walls up and split it, then that will work. I don't want to take away from what he's doing. I want to have my own television studio in there where I can create, have people actually come in and be interviewed for the podcast and be on like we're on now, but eventually moving into a live platform and have my own events and have my own Posh and Sips and reseller events. So my whole thing is going to be totally different than what I'm doing now. I have a whole plan. So it really depends on where we're going, how much land we get. It's not something I'm going to do right away, but that is my future goal. A couple other good questions. Every day above ground is a good day. Yes. I love reselling and plan on doing it until I'm 100. What about you guys? Will you ever retire? Sure, we will.
Yep.
And the next 2 years for me, I plan on turning everything into digital and move more, focusing on motivational speaking and starting a nonprofit. I don't want to do any reselling. I don't want to have any physical products. So that's my 2-year plan. What about you, Stevie?
I don't know if I can get it done in 2 years. But I too, because I always say to you that the thing that people want the most is information. Yeah. And if you can provide information that's going to help people make money for themselves, that's what people want. And if you can provide that, then you can make money. So, but I don't think it's going to be 2 years for me. I think it's going to be a little longer, maybe 5 years. I don't know. I'm just getting into this video thing. You've been into it for a while, and you're doing well, and I'm learning from you. So, but I think it's going to be a little long for me. I'm thinking maybe 5.
Yeah.
5 years or so.
And see, the pandemic has kind of slowed me down because, again, I'm supposed to be speaking at a few events. And speaking events, you can make really good money. But also, for anyone who's thinking about it, think about digital products. Like I wrote an ebook. I wrote it once, had it edited, finished it, released it, and that's a continual income. It's not always like when I first wrote it, I sold tons, but then I just made a sale today. So you can create digital products, calendars, and things like that. Anything related to reselling. Anything like, did you ever feel like you want to sit down and figure out how to create that for yourself? That is how you create residual income, not just reselling, not just selling product, but something related to that. So that keeps you in with the community. Because that's my goal. I never want to lose contact with the community. But after a while, considering, because, you know, I'll be 51 this summer, I want to be able to do some other things. And this platform has already allowed me to do that. I saw a couple other things. Let's see. Oh, so Lizette wants to know if you use Pirate Ship.
I've checked into it, but like I said, I don't want to get deep. I don't want to get any deeper into reselling. So I really don't look at some of the newer things out there. And also because I'm cheap by nature.
Well, we're on PayPal too, so we use the same.
So I don't really want to do anything new. So no.
Yeah, and so we'll talk about that real quick. Like, and I wrote it down. We were talking about this before we went live. Thomas can only really focus on one thing at a time. Literally everything that we're doing now, we talked about this a while ago. So he talked about like he has YouTube videos and things like that. They're not reselling related. Some get political. Some talk probably about the Earth, the star, and the moons, because he's really brainy like that. So
nerd.
He really is a nerd. He really didn't want to get into like reselling, but he sees me doing it and he sees the potential, not the reselling, but the informational, the videos. So he talked about this 2 and 3 years ago. This just happened to happen to me. It wasn't something that I was looking for. The community found me, and I'm giving the community what I like to give them and what they ask me for. And so he sees the potential in that. But if we go too fast for him, it's too much. Like I told him about Mercari a year ago. He just started selling on Mercari. So you can't go too fast. Like he just.
You think you got me figured out, don't you? You think you got me figured out.
He started on Instagram.
You know me.
He just started on Instagram, and I'll say to him, like, if you're posting a little video, how about just share it to your stories? Oh, that's too much. But I'm like, sweetie, it's literally a second. So he has to do one thing at a time and really kind of get that figured out. And then he'll come back in probably a month and say, okay, now I'm ready for stories, even though he's been on Instagram for 3 months. So he'll be like, well, why am I not getting? I'm like, well, you got to put something out every day. Like, even if it's just a story, but he can only do one thing at a time. And so I don't bother him. I just wait for him to come to me. And he's still not used to my Philly talking and fat, because he'll just like, wait, slow down. Okay. He says it in a nice way. Okay. Somebody else was asking, this all super sweet.
You said it. You're super sweet. At all times, you're nice to people, unless somebody really gets on your nerves. And that's one of my favorite qualities about you. I'm calm. I think I'm more calm in certain situations, but I don't think of myself as being sweet underneath. I think I'm fair and firm. I don't really consider myself to be that nice, but you actually are nice, nice and sweet.
I'm not until or until somebody thinks I'm not.
Oh, that's true. That's true for everybody, until you're not.
Well, I wouldn't say Thomas is nice. That's the thing. He is.
Oh, I'm not.
Oh, that's an interesting question, Nikki. Where did we meet, Thomas?
Well, first of all, how we met, it was Craigslist, right? Craigslist personals.
We met through the Craigslist personals. I had a personal ad, and Thomas responded. And
wait a minute. No, it was my ad. You responded.
no, no, I still have the original
You
email.
responded to my ad.
I still have the original email, so don't even try it. I can go back. I have the email. Thomas used to write me the greatest letters. He courted me. I have like physical letters he sent me. He used to send me emails. I still have that stuff. I have a folder called Thomas in my email. So yes, he answered my personal. And yeah. So that's how we met, and here we are. We met in August. We were married by November. And the funny thing is, Thomas was like, I'm never getting married again. I'm never getting married again. Next thing I know, he's like, we're getting married. So yeah, so we we met like literally the last day in July, and we were married November 16th, the day after his birthday, which is November 15th. So, and
I think that was a reasonable courtship.
You thought about doing a convert container, seeing some nice one. Oh, that's exactly what I would like to do, Calvin. Something like a container. The thing is, it just has to function all year round. I mean, we're going down south, like how really cold is it going to get? But that's exactly kind of what I'm looking for, so that I can have like half of it be my space for like if I'm still reselling, but half of it. You know, it needs to be big enough where I can have like people there also. So that's my goal. And then just, I don't know how it's going to work out, because I don't want, to be so close that our neighbors are complaining that, we're having too many events or whatever. You've been trying to get Andrew to do IG in stories more. Yeah, well, you guys come on. Andrew reminds me a lot of Thomas. So, Thomas gets along. He really says he gets along with people from New York. So I think he and Andrew will click, because Andrew has that laid back thing that Thomas does.
Okay. From the fellas. What's Calvin saying on the bottom?
I'm going to click it. It says, yeah, he learned from the fellas because bro was slow. What?
That's why Calvin had triplets, because he was too fast.
Oh, yay! Nikki said Team Scorpio. Okay, I see that. No, I gotta represent the Cancer. Okay, so you want to know what kind of? Well, Victor, I'm not really sure, because this is the thing. It actually kind of changes, because we have a daughter who's on the autism spectrum, and then I have a daughter who has a condition called hydrocephalus. So those are ideas that I've been playing around with, like how can I do something with that? But then lately, because of my hair loss, for people who don't know, I do have alopecia. Being bald isn't a fashion statement; it is a condition. And so now that I'm kind of tapped into that community, I see a different potential. So I have to really figure it out. I'm not going to do that, a nonprofit, till that's my 5-year plan. I want to do some other things first, but I've already been active in the alopecia community, and I can see it's bigger than I had thought it was. So I have to really rethink where I want to move in the nonprofit, because I only want to do one, and I don't want it to be like, have one and give it to different organizations. I just want to kind of like be focused. So like alopecia, it could really benefit people, like, because there are a lot of people who don't want to go bald like me. Maybe an organization where we can raise enough money for people who still want to they can get their own specific wigs made, or if they want to get treatment, if their doctor says that if they had $15,000 they can get some hair growth treatment or something like that. So I think I'll probably be moving a little bit in that thing. Okay, so my last question this is from Nikki, Glow Girl Glow. Everybody's had really great questions. If you have any more comments, give them to me, because we don't have to jump off. One thing is we don't have any small children. But if you have 1 or 2 more questions in the community, we will answer them. But I'm going to read Nikki's question that she sent on Instagram. So Nikki says, where do you see yourself in the next year with reselling? Thomas?
I'm kind of following the route that your boy Chris does. What's the name of his site again? 10K in the Bay.
He used to be 10K in the Bay. He's Daily Refinement now.
where he does renewables, and I'm leaning toward that because I've had a couple of situations where I bought a bunch of things that were exactly alike, and I've sold almost all of them. It was computer monitors, and so I'm starting to do that with the shoes and the sneakers, trying to get a lot of things that are exactly the same and just do renewables rather than randomly shopping at Goodwills or thrift stores or wherever. And I see myself going that way. And if I decide to keep reselling, it's going to go that way because it's kind of hit or miss when you're picking up odds and ends at the thrift stores and stuff like that. But if you can find an item that's in demand that everybody wants, everybody needs. I mean, it could be pots and pans, it could be anything I can find that's fairly inexpensive, that's in demand, something that people need that I can get cheaply. That's where I see myself going in next year. So renewables.
Yeah. So my question to that, like, one of the things about being home and learning to source, I already sourced from home. I sourced from Poshmark, Vinted, in different places. I'm thinking about new things for my business, kind of playing around with the reselling. And I'm like Thomas, renewable. So I literally just bought like this case of bras, and that is something that I always could sell, but it is a wonderful thing when you can get like a big bunch of something and then sell it and then see how fast they sell, because you've proven to yourself that it is something necessary. Like not everyone, but the majority of women wear bras. And that was something I knew that sold, and they're all plus sizes. And I've sold it, and there are people actually in the Instagram community, because I did videos or whatever, who are sending me messages. I'll go, oh, I sold a bra today. And then they'll send me a message like, I bought a bra from you. So it's like really cool to see that. And then the other thing that I really want to get into, since my Etsy is starting to build up and I'm making sales, is get into vintage selling. I found a couple distributors, so I'm going to play around with some vintage items and keep doing handmade. And the biggest thing is also trying to build relationships with different companies. Don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone and look for places online. Like if it's something that you're interested in doing, Google is your best friend. You never know, especially now, there are going to be so many companies that have so much product. If you contact them, that's how I got my bras. Like I contacted a company and they put that box together for me. They weren't just selling the bras like that. They had bras and I told them how many I wanted and they quoted me a price. So just build relationships. And that's my goal, just to build relationships. And that may keep me in reselling a little longer if I can find renewables, like Thomas was saying, something that I can get my hands on and sell it instead of like going out and sourcing, because I like being home and just being able to do everything from the computer. So Wendy said there's a difference between being nice and being kind. Leslie is truly kind. Thank you, Wendy. Wendy is like one of my great friends. We've been hanging since March. We've been hanging online. I mean, I can't wait till we can meet in person, because her spirit is just beautiful. Yes, Chris from Daily Refinement is a great person. I tell him often of the story, like Thomas used to watch this guy called 10K on the Bay, and he was like, yeah, this guy 10K, and I would go and I look and I go, okay. And then one day Chris started selling on Poshmark, and he did this video, and he would wear his suit and he had a tie and everything. And I went to Thomas and I said, here's this guy, Daily Refinement. And Thomas was like, he looks like the guy 10K on the Bay. And it turned out to be Chris, 10K on the Bay. So he changed to Daily Refinement. And I had the privilege of meeting him at Posh Fest and actually being interviewed. If you guys haven't seen that video, go to Chris's Daily Refinement. I was the first person he interviewed in the 35 resellers that he interviewed. So if anyone doesn't have any more questions, Thomas and I are going to say bye. You have any last words for our friends, Thomas?
As always, I am Pasha X.
Is that Generation X? Is that the men? Is that he said he's Pasha Dude X. Mm-hmm. And I am Leslie, a Reseller's Passion. I want to thank everyone for coming on tonight.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Taking time out of your day. So friends,
also
go ahead, babe.
Come up with some good questions next week. We can talk about anything.
Yeah.
Anything except politics and religion.
Yeah.
Those two topics are taboo,
Or other
people. Don't talk about that stuff.
Yeah. So So thank you, friends, for joining us. Everyone have a great night. New England Betty Boop, thank you for monitoring. Hit the thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Send me messages here and on Instagram if you have any questions. But thank you, friends, as always. I appreciate you so much. Take care.